Okay, so it's 1:30. Let's start class. Alright, so today, very light. I know everyone's coming just back from vacation, and yes, hey, some talk. I love that. Okay, yeah, but yeah, I know. So, and some of you will, some people are taking PHYL not knowing what it involves, and they might drop this after. So, again, low stakes today. Alright. Okay, so are there labs this week? There are no labs this week, but your lab TA might be taking attendance. So labs start next week officially, but they might send out an email saying, because the thing is about, they have to make sure, and this is stuff on UH and actually federal I think too, if you're having some sort of like loan or grant for classes, you need to show you're actually enrolled in a class. So it's just making sure that everyone who's enrolled is actually enrolled in the class. So then none of the lab sections are in person. They're all online this semester. So yeah, I think some sections, because that might have a like optional in-person dissection, but as a default, if you're on the mainland or if you're off island, all labs are online this semester because again, we still have, it's not as bad, or actually is it worse? I don't know, but we're on the upswing with the whole COVID cases and coronavirus, so again, everything's online. Lectures online, labs online for PHYL this semester. And I always get this question, somebody's enrolled in this class, PHYL 142, but not in, so yeah, if there's a sign-in sheet, you do it virtually. So the sign-in sheet on the syllabus, that means you have to do, I'm pretty sure that's probably like a Google Doc or Excel file. So you should do that sign-in sheet or email your TA for that. And again, if you're not taking the lab, you're not taking the lab. So if you're enrolled in this class but not 142L, you're fine. You don't have to worry about the lab. So again, you can take the lecture without the lab. It's not like you have to take both at the same time. You can take the lecture without the lab. That's what I'm getting at there. But you can't take 142L without being in this class. So again, you don't need the lab. The lab is something, especially if it's a prereq or something you need to get into the program you want to get into, then you have to take the lab. But if you're taking this like as a DY or just a elective credit, you don't need to actually take the lab. Alright, so how's the course delivery? Well, this is the main course delivery, how I'm delivering my lectures. I'm delivering it on Twitch, and this is the channel you're watching right now. Now, YouTube Live will be a backup in case something weird happens with Twitch and I can't connect to it. Then I'll use YouTube Live. So why am I using Twitch versus YouTube Live if I have a YouTube channel? Well, I tried using YouTube Live like for the first 2 weeks of my last fall semester, but for some reason YouTube Live was a little less stable on my computer and open broadcast software than Twitch was. Twitch was pretty stable like during spring semester last semester, and that's why we used it for the fall semester because it's a lot more stable than YouTube Live, at least for my rig. And Zoom is a last resort. I mean, if Twitch doesn't work, if YouTube Live doesn't work, I'm probably going to cancel class and just say the recording will be up later. I mean, if there's an efficient way to teach 300 people on Zoom, I know like the upper limit is 300 for a Zoom classroom, but I'm not going to do that. If there's an efficient way to teach hundreds of students on Zoom and deal with all these mics and people having cameras and Zoom bombers, by all means let me know. But I don't think Zoom is appropriate for our class. So again, I don't really care for Zoom. I'm totally burnt out of Zoom, so I probably won't use Zoom for the lectures. Now, do you need to attend these live lectures? Do you need to attend every single live lecture? No, you don't. Thing is that the live, and I sometimes ask live questions during the lecture, and some people are like, oh my god, I missed this question. These live questions do not count for or against you. They are worth 0 points. So if you miss them, you get 0 points. If you get them correct, you get 0 points. They're more to kind of engage your brain and let whatever we cover in lecture kind of sink into your brain and kind of have your brain kind of wrestle with the material and apply that during a live question. And lecture recordings are always posted within the day or they're posted, I try to get within the day. Most of the times I get within the day, but the recordings make themselves available within 24 hours on average after the broadcast. So yes, this is my YouTube channel. So same username, but now on YouTube. So I have my recordings up to you on YouTube 24 hours after a broadcast. It takes time to upload a video, it takes time to compile them and edit out the fluff like the intro and whatnot. So I know because some people, they email me like 3 minutes after a lecture, says when's the recording gonna be up? And I'm like, it takes time. So again, sometimes if you've done any sort of video editing, just even like recording a video and when it compiles and just breaking up fragments, it takes a long time depending on how it. Yeah, it's very processor intense. It's very intensive in terms of memory usage, so it takes a while. And I know it just tries to be more efficient with that. But comments are appreciated on YouTube, so I do hold comments. And why is that? Well, it's not that I'm trying to censor, but so they have like allow all comments, which is asking for trouble, hold all comments, or hold comments that are potentially spam. Now I used to do that. But even with that, YouTube hold things are potentially spam. Here, let me show you the type of comments you get. So this is with holding it. Some of these actually make it through, even with the filter to hold things that are potentially spam. They think the YouTube algorithm doesn't filter these out. So a lot of like people pushing whatever like sort of like medications and whatnot that they have online, and stuff like this. Like this stuff does not get. Yeah, YouTube does not filter out, doesn't think that's spam. That's pretty obviously an adult link, right? So this is why the comments, I do accept comments, but they have to be filtered because YouTube does not catch things like this. So again, that's why I have to kind of like hold those comments, because otherwise you'll have those links showing up in the comments. Alright, so our main info hub is Laulima. So Laulima has a cosmetic change. Now no longer has that. Remember how if you were here last semester or years before, how this logo here was like this really pixelated, used the papyrus font, and it looked like something all the way back that's gone through multiple filters and JPEG filters. So they did a cosmetic thing, but it's pretty much the same Laulima. But so again, laulima.hawaii.edu. And to get to the PHYL 142 site, either you have to navigate every time by clicking this link, but I'll show you a shortcut that makes it easier to access your classes. Click this part right here that says Sites, and when you get to that part right there, so click on Sites, and then you have all these sites. You might have to scroll down a bit, but go down to the semester and click the star right next to PHYL 142 and the lab if you're in the lab, or any of the classes you want that are using Laulima extensively. This is one of those classes. So again, click and highlight the star, and now it should appear in your Laulima, the top bar of your Laulima site every time you log in. So that will save you a lot of clicking every time you log into Laulima. Alright, so then another thing, so now this should, if you've done it correctly, you should see PHYL 142 on your bar right here in Laulima. And if you click that link, it should take you to our site. Yes, we palette swap between PHYL 141 and 142. This is for not only for you, it's also for me to make sure we're in the right class, not looking at the old class. But yeah, now we went from green to, I don't know, pinkish magenta. I just chose pretty much the opposite color on the color wheel. So if you don't see this, try my workspace /membership, and then if you're still enrolled and still do not see this, email me. And if you just enrolled maybe this morning, you probably don't see this quite yet. I think you get added automatically by Banner, Star, and Laulima when midnight rolls over. So if it's not appearing for you right now and you just enrolled today, this is why. So wait until tomorrow, and if it still doesn't appear, email me. And let's see, contact info for the lab TA. Your lab TA should email you soon, and if not, I think there's an email tool as well on the Laulima website. Okay, so then the PHYL 142 Laulima site. So one thing you want to check out first is the syllabus. So the syllabus, right here, and here it is linked. So if you click that, you'll see the link with the PHYL 142 syllabus. Again, most of the questions you have are probably answered somewhere on the syllabus. Now, office hours, start the live. Okay, I'm not sure about start the live link. So if you can't start the live broadcast, then maybe try a different computer, try your phone, because that's another great thing about Twitch. It works on your phone, it works on your computers, it works on many different platforms. And again, if you can't, for some reason Twitch doesn't work on anything, there's always YouTube. So again, I get your content to you somehow, some way. Okay. Alright, so office hours, so drop in on Zoom. This is the only time I really use Zoom. It is for office hours, and then, so here's the link right here. And use your full name. Unregistered names will not be let into the Zoom. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 to 4 p.m. Yeah, so if you have things lagging, well, right now I'm at Ethernet, so it shouldn't be that bad. But again, it kind of also depends on, you might want to also reduce your image quality, because if you're trying to do it at like 360 or 720 and you have a really slow internet connection, sometimes that affects your quality of the video. Yep. So change your quality, because again, you don't need to see me in HD either, or the slides. So I mean, I don't really test on something that fine in menu. Okay, so then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, pretty much we have a little break between class, like a 30-minute-ish break. Then I hold office hours for an hour after that. And then Thursday is, now I have to change this because I have less med school duties, because I'm pretty much working 2 positions at the med school now. So I think I'll, like, maybe around March, late March and April, I will need to teach another class for the med students between 8:30 and 11:30. That's why it's kind of changed on Thursday. So yeah, Thursdays are now a little later instead of in the mornings like last semester. And these are by appointment only, and you don't use the star to do that, but what we have to do is you can just click this link right here. And then the great thing about this link is that you just click a time, and you can reserve a time slot, and then it saves it on your calendar, saves it on my calendar, and you can cancel, reschedule. This is a great thing about this site. I don't use that star one quite yet because I mean, maybe they've improved. I haven't checked it if they've made an improvement on it yet, but I think the site has been pretty stable. And best way to contact me is via email. Okay, so then the thing is that this is why, so this isn't my last name. That's actually my second first name. If you're Filipino, you know all about having 2 first names. So yes, Jason is my first name, Kenji is my second first name. But why do we make a big deal of that? Because that's in my email, and also you can email just me with the hawaii.edu. But yes, and as for people asking about the lab, your instructors will email you later on. So they'll email you this week. So again, you don't have the official labs this week, but your instructors will contact you this week. I believe the Monday lab instructor already sent out emails, so be sure to check your emails. Now this part right here, why do I prefer that you use that one? And again, why do I make a big deal about my second first name? There's another person with the same name, first name and last name. Again, if you're in Hawaii, you know that Higa is like the Smith of the Okinawans. There's so many of us there. And am I related to Ryan Higa? No, not that I know of. I mean, I do have relatives in Hilo, but if we are related, it's probably like some distant relation. But again, this is why so many people send the wrong Jason, the wrong emails. So again, I get his emails all the time. So again, this is the correct one. Don't message the JT email address. And this is why I like to have that plus PHYL142. You don't have to include that, but it labels things. It automatically puts it into the PHYL142 folder in my inbox. And the thing is that this is generally a good tip for college in general. Not just this class. Add your course number in the subject line. Guaranteed to get your emails ignored by any professor. Don't have a subject line. Don't use a subject line. So this is why you should do that. You should add your course numbers and emails to professors. So this is a good idea in general, because it tells you, okay, what class is it about? Because guarantee, like especially at this first week, your professors are getting so many different emails. Alright, so email policy. I usually reply within 24 hours. Last semester was, oh geez, that was crazy. I know I kind of violated this rule. I'll do better this semester. But usually I reply within 24 hours. If it's been longer than a day, you can send another reminder email, because again, I mean, especially when it gets too late, March and past that, I might need these reminders because my workload will increase yet again. Weekends, usually by Monday morning. Again, I'm not going to expect you assign you something on Saturday and expect you to have it done by Sunday, right? So again, don't do that. So I will email you by Monday morning if I do check on the weekends. And the times I check emails during regular on Monday through Friday, I check in the morning, I check it after class. So those are the best times to get quick responses. Now emails during exam time, again, I get a flood of emails. So I have what I call a brownout period. And brownout period, it's not a blackout period, so I will respond, but it might take longer because of increased traffic. So again, what happens, responses will be short. I usually try to do, my responses today will be very short, right? So then emails are answered in order, and questions that need responses and longer than paragraph may be turned down. Alright, so then textbooks. So do you need the textbook? Well, you already have one free textbook, right? So you have that OpenStax textbook. So all you have to do is look up OpenStax Anatomy and Physiology. You have a free textbook online. Now, do you need the actual physical copy? Well, if you like reading a book, if you do like doing highlighting and all of that, then you can do that. So then so which is better? Well, which is better? Thing is that the Martini is you get better quality, and it's what we've used for the past like 10 plus years, but it's more expensive. It has better images, it has more information, but I think, if you're on island, the best thing you can do is to go to Hamilton Library and preview it. So preview it and you can see like if that's something you like, maybe you want to invest in, and the thing is that a new copy is really expensive. You can use the used copy. Like I don't get any contrary to rumors, I don't get any profit from many book sales. Like none of your professors, unless they actually wrote the book, and even then I think maybe they'll get a few bucks per book sold. The companies get most of the money really, and it's like I don't care where you get this book from, I don't care. And here's another secret too. There's a global edition that's cheaper than the American edition. Maybe they change things like they have like the UK spelling of a word versus the American version of spelling of a word, but global versions tend to be cheaper and they have pretty much the same information. So then what you do here is like better overall picture quality. So the thing is like you can get a used book and if you really like this book. Now OpenStax is free, but you kind of get what you paid for, and I think you kind of, if you were here last semester, you saw that sometimes OpenStax is pretty sparse in places, so that's one disadvantage of that. Now the thing is that OpenStax is being written by multiple professors, so the tone, the difficulty, it kind of varies. Sometimes it's really easy to read, sometimes it's kind of random, sometimes it's really difficult to read, so that's one thing with OpenStax AMP. And another thing is that if you check the schedule, you'll see that I have 2 weeks where I pre-record. So what is actually happening during those weeks, I will be stuck in a room, or probably Zoom room, because like I don't think this pandemic is going to be resolved in the semester. But what happens is like all the anatomy and physiology professors, or actually most of them in the UH system, are writing kind of like a variation on OpenStax. So it'll be free, and so we'll be there writing a new AMP textbook in a workshop that's 2 weeks long. So that's why I think one is in late March and one is in early April. But yeah, during those 2 weeks, I'll have pre-recorded stuff. So do you have to buy the book? No. The thing is that the online version of the physical book should have the same information. You already have the OpenStax, and OpenStax is free online. So don't get mastering, by the way. So Martini, Fundamentals of AMP, there are reserved copies if you're on island, and I believe the circulation desk at Hamilton used to be at Sinclair. Unless they changed something between the semesters, I think Hamilton Library still has reserved copies of the actual Fundamentals of AMP book on reserve. But I think there's a quarantine period where they disinfect it or something. So if it's not available, that means someone's either checked it out or someone's returned it relatively recently. So again, this is a way to kind of like try before you buy. And again, used copies, global copies, they're mostly the same as the current 11th edition. I think between the 10th and 11th edition. Maybe 1 or 2 figures changed. So again, this is like Pearson just cranking out the same stuff and slapping a new serial number on it and charging full price on it. I don't take attendance. So attendance is optional. Attendance counts for 0. So yeah, attendance, I don't count attendance in this class. I mean, some people, they don't even attend the live Twitch streams, they just watch everything on YouTube later, and that's fine. I mean, as long as the information gets to you somehow. So yes, if you don't, attendance is not mandatory. So PHYL 141 and 142 is a year-long course. If you're here for PHYL 141 or weren't here for PHYL 141, this is what we covered. And again, it seems like less. Now PHYL 142 is pretty much internal medicine light. So we cover all the organs and inner workings of the body. So we covered all the things like skeletal, muscular, and nervous system, so kind of orthopedics here and neurology. But yeah, PHYL 142 is when we start talking about the organs. Now, in general, depending on your interests, so people who are like kinesiology or exercise and sports sciences, they tend to like PHYL 141 because again, you have your orthopedics and skeletal muscular right there. But if you're really interested in things like pharmacology or medicine, you tend to like PHYL 142. Now, PHYL 142, well, it's hard to poke your organs and figure out where their anatomy is and how they're functioning. So PHYL 142 is a little more theoretical, more on how things work rather than just memorizing things. So if you really like figuring out how things work, you might like PHYL 142 better. But if that's kind of difficult for you, in general, a lot of people find PHYL 142 slightly more difficult than PHYL 141. So yeah, way more physiology this time around. So an A is possible. People have taken PHYL 142 and 141 without sequence and gotten an A, but the median grade is a C. So the thing is like the mode and median is a C. So it is possible to pass, but I teach PHYL 142 as if you already know everything from PHYL 141. So yes, you can take the class, and if you really work at it, you can get an A out of sequence. So what you should do is read chapters 1 through 4. I will not be retreading over chemistry and cell biology and anatomical landmarks. That's, again, we have a lot of stuff to cover in PHYL 142. I might cover a little bit of chapter 16 and the autonomic nervous system, but that's pretty much the most overlap I do with PHYL 141. And brush up on your cell biology and chemistry. Again, we do during PHYL 141, the first 2 weeks are pretty much that. We do not retread over that. In office hours and or tutoring, there's a Learning Assistance Center. They're virtual, but just look up the LAC and Sinclair Library for UH Manoa. And if they have a PHYL tutor on duty, usually there's someone who has passed PHYL 141 and 142 with a B or higher. I think in most cases they've had an A or higher. So again, they went through the same thing and found success. So maybe they can share their tips. And it's free, by all means. Use them extensively. Now, what's the purpose of the lectures? So I give you an overview of important concepts. So I don't cover every single little thing detail in the textbook. Otherwise, it would take way too long. We only have 15 minutes per day. I try to also explain some complex concepts, especially the ones I think the book could use a little more time or it doesn't provide enough detail or it's way too complex. I try to break it down in easier terms. And then textbook. So this word detail. Some people they like my lectures, but they want more details. So that's what the textbook is there for. Especially if you really like a lot of detail, by all means, maybe invest in a used copy of the Martini one. So the thing, textbook, details, and sometimes we don't have time to cover every single thing in the textbook. I try to cover as much of the textbooks as I can, but we can't cover everything. And like chapter 28 in OpenStax and chapter 29 in Martini, the part about like the development and pregnancy, we don't really have time for that. I've never had time in 5 years of this, so yeah, so it's more of a reference. So grade breakdown, exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, all worth the same. They all count. There's no dropped exams. So they're all 50 questions, 50 points each. And then 15% is the Packback discussion forum. I'll explain that real soon. 10% are your assignments and quizzes. So if you miss, even if you like get 100% on all of this and you decide not to do any assignments, you're getting 90%. So they all count, and again, it's like missing something, like messing up on one exam won't cause you to fail. But if you're constantly getting like 50% or lower on all your exams, yeah, that's going to bring your grade down. So what do you need for A plus in this class? You need well, again, this is how you get the points. It's weighted, but I've done the math, and I've already like weighted, kind of awarded points based on weights approximately. So for exams, 50 points per question, 50 questions per exam. So all of the exams are 2,500 points. And then you have 100, or not 100, 1,000 maximum points for quizzes and top hat assignments. So all the assignments and quizzes that will be assigned during the semester will add up to 1,000 points. Now there's a 1,500, so 1,500 maximum cap for packback discussion. So I'm going to explain a little that in detail. Yeah, so 150 maximum points per week. This is increased from last semester, so now you can earn up to 150 per week. And all questions, responses, and I didn't see a lot of people replying to responses. So replies, if someone has a response and you reply to it, it still counts as a response. So you don't have to like create a new response altogether. You can reply to someone within their own thread. And they're all now worth 30 points. So questions are worth the same as a response this semester. And these all add up to 10,000 points. So all of this together, 10,000 points. And yes, so at UH, A plus is just like a gold star. It doesn't count for anything. Like I think some other universities, they have like, it's worth more than 4.0, but A plus and A minus are worth the same at UH, and I think A minus is worth 3.7. Alright, so then the maximum grade is 1,000, so 10,000. So if you get 10,000, you get A plus. But if you just want an A, you have over 9,300. So what we have here is a minimum for credit, no credit. Yeah, you don't have to. Let's see, 720p. Okay, let me check my video settings, but I mean you should be able to like use a different like lower resolution. Alright, so if you're taking it credit, no credit, so this is the minimum. You need 7,000 points, and it's not something I put in my, like I decided, it's a UH policy. Like you need at least C-level work or better to get credit, no credit. Now if you're going to things like nursing or pre-nursing, they don't accept credit, no credit. So I think you have until maybe the W period to change things from letter grades to credit, no credit. Unlike spring last year, and you can check the FAQ on the UH website. This is not my policy, it's UH policy. There is no, I think some people thought that there would still be the same thing where you can see your grades and choose credit, no credit. You have to choose it from the start, and that's how it's been for every semester before spring of last year. So again, this is not my policy, I'm just FYIing you. Alright, so grade breakdown. So again, 25%, and things like, all you do is like divide that by the 10,000 points, and these are the percentages. Now attendance, again, is 0. You don't have to attend the live lectures, but actually I have to compile the stats, but in general, people who attend the lectures, they do a little better. Alright, so exam dates. Now this is where you want to get your calendar out. This is in the syllabus on Lima. So exam 1 is on Wednesday, February 17th. Exam 2 is Monday, March 29th. And then exam 3 is, so our exam, final exam, I mean it's worth the same, but they call it final exam week anyway, is Friday. This semester it's Friday, May 14th. Now, the thing about exams, exam 1 and 2 are synchronous with the 1:30 to 2:20 Hawaii Standard Time class time. So yep, I might give a small window buffer, maybe 15-30 minutes before or after the period, but the exam times are synchronous. And this is what it's listed as in I believe the course catalog. Now if you're missing exam day, you have to see the there's a lot of rules regarding that, but see the makeup exam rules in the syllabus. and then miss the final, you have a complete incomplete grade. So again, our final, our exam 3 is the last exam day of the entire semester. If you miss the last day of finals, well, the semester is over. You have it incomplete because again, if the semester is over, you can't make it up within that time. Alright, so exam 3 and what I did, now this is another thing. If you have your calendar open, it's not at 1:30 to 2:30, and it's at this 4:15 to 4:15 p.m. time slot. So why? Because it's according to this final exam schedule. It's like the same thing as last semester. So our class starts at 1:30. We are exam period 7. If you go to this link, exam period 7 is on May 14th from 2:15 to 4:15 p.m. And we use the official UH schedule because this puts at a minute. This is something that applies to all classes. If any other professors, it's basically so that your other professors can't just schedule their final exams whenever. It's trying to limit the amount of conflicts as possible. So again, this is our slot. This is when our final exam is. Alright, so what will be on the exam? Anything I cover in lecture is fair game. So again, this is why it's good to attend the lectures or watch the recordings. Now, harder questions may come from details in the textbook, and again, the OpenStax, everyone has that as a minimum. But what I do is focus on the material covered since the last exam, or for exam 1, it's everything I covered since the beginning of the semester. Now, what you see is that exam 1, unit 1 is pretty much hormones, blood, and now think about this semester is kind of tricky because we have spring break, and the way things kind of we have a lot of complex topics. So what I do is split the heart between just general anatomy in exam 1 and then physiology in exam 2. Now exam 2 is cardiopulmonary, so your heart and lungs, and also your vasculature. So this includes your blood vessels and lymphatic systems. Now immunology, digestion, and then urinary and reproductive system. So immunology is kind of a beast, and it's actually very important now with everything regarding COVID. So exam 3 is it has a lot of material, but you have more time to study the material. And then top hat exam assignments and quiz topics. Again, these may also appear as well. So our exams cumulative. Again, everything in your body works together. So all your organs and tissue work together, but the focus of each exam is everything I kind of cover in those intervals. Yeah, and then Packback, I think it's per semester, so you have to subscribe again. I don't know if they have a year-long subscription. I know Top Hat, if you got that whole year thing for a Top Hat, then you should be good for a Top Hat, but I think Packback is by semester. Alright, so how to take exams? Top Hat test. And the great thing is that it's a flat fee for the whole semester, so when you pay up for Top Hat, it's not like ProctorU where you have to pay for each exam. Top Hat test covers the whole semester. So it requires video, internet, and a desktop and laptop computer with Chrome. So it doesn't work with the iPad. I think it works with Surface, but only if you have an attached keyboard. But yeah, this is why I will put on Top Hat tests, or not Top Hat, but on our Top Hat website, a test drive where you can test out your rig to make sure your camera, your computer, and everything browser is working correctly. You don't want to test it the day of, because if anything goes wrong, then the longer you spend trying to resolve your tech issues, then your time is being eaten up from the exam. There's also the UH testing center, so not all, but I think most community colleges have that, especially if you're on the neighbor island. Or proctor testing centers like Hawaii State Libraries. Not all of them have proctoring services, but some do. Other universities, but things like other universities, it depends on their policies. Sometimes they close their exam centers to outside students because of the pandemic. And that's also something that's happened with our community colleges. And there's also other professional exam centers as well. But the great thing about UH testing centers is free for all UH students. Even if you're a UH Manoa student, but you're on Maui, you should be able to take testing center exams at the Maui Community College for free. Same if you're on the Kauai or Big Island, right? So the Manoa Testing Center, this is more details here, but the thing is that these require arrangements. You can't just tell them like you're showing up, oh, I want to take the exam the day before or the day of. They have a reserve system. They want to make sure that everything's staffed to take so you have proctors and everything for that exam that day. So they require, I think, the strictest one, they want at least 2 weeks notice, so you have to let them know ahead of time. This is why it's 2 weeks before exam. Alright, so Packback. Let's talk about Packback. So I believe, yes, you do need to, I don't know if they have a year-long subscription, but if you did it by semester, I believe you have to do it again this semester and subscribe again. So go to packback.co, and the community key should be, I think this is also in the syllabus as well. And scoring per week, again, 30 points for questions, 30 points for responses. They're all worth the same. But things that they have to meet this minimum quality score. This is called curiosity points. Curiosity points are not the same as grade points. But what happens is that you have 30 points, and if you have a curiosity points or a curiosity score lower than 30, I think they give you like half credit, so you get 15 points instead. So what is this curiosity points? And well, I'll get to that real soon. But a maximum 150 points per week. So you can ask up to 1 question per week and up to 4 responses per week. So 4 responses at 30 each, that's 120, plus 30 points per question, that's 150 total. And if you don't have a group yet, so I think I had randomized groups assigned on Wednesday. If you registered for PHYL 1 for 2 between last week Wednesday and today, you probably don't have a group assigned yet. So this was kind of a suggestion from our Packback TA. Like sometimes, like if you were here last semester, it would be, pretty much everything is pretty much the same. It's just content is different. So the thing about last semester is like I think everyone was in one big group. So every week we would get like around 300 new questions. So now we have smaller groups, so you'll only see the questions from your random group. So now it'll be a little more like you won't have the questions scrolling rapid fire on Saturday, Sunday like it was last semester. So this was kind of like something we're trying out this semester. Like you all have groups, they're all named after a Hawaiian color. So this is what Packback looks like. So you have all these questions, and the thing about Packback is that they have to be open-ended questions. So meaning that there's not a single correct answer, like there's no yes or no questions. These are questions that are supposed to stimulate further conversation. So it's like you can talk about a topic, but you shouldn't arrive on one singular answer because that's a closed-ended question. We're not just asking simple questions, we're trying to go for, and the whole purpose of this is kind of like help you think about these topics in a broader concept. So we cover a lot of things in PHYL 1 for 1, 1 for 2. But this is to help you think about how it relates to things like if you're interested in medicine, how it relates to medicine, how it relates to your regular life. Like there was a lot of interesting thing about people asking about muscle twitching or things about like their injuries for the musculoskeletal. So you can ask things about yourself as well. Like, I had this injury, why did this happen? So Packback, I'm pretty loose on what I allow or don't allow. So as long as it's related to something involving health and physiology, I tend to allow. I think one thing that was borderline was when people were talking about the lockdown. I was thinking like, well, that's public health and it is important, so I let that slide. But yeah, you can't just ask about like, what's your favorite celebrity? Yeah, that'll be moderated. That'll be kicked out. So it should be something related to physiology and health. And what I do is pin questions that are more related to whatever we're discussing in class. So during the first few weeks, I'll probably pin something related to hormones or whatnot. Now the cool thing about, so if you don't have a Packback group, I will try to I'll probably just assign people who haven't had Packback group yet. So again, things about the Packback is a lot. So up to 4 responses. So this is where it gets interesting in the grading. So you can ask a new question, and before we talk about scoring, so the thing is that now we have an open schedule. Extra questions and replies don't count against you. So there are no free weeks, there are no mandatory weeks. So what happens is that with 150 points, up to 150 points per week. We have 16 weeks in the semester. You can be done with Packback by week 10 if you post that maximum for the first 10 weeks. If you miss a week, you can make it up, but the thing is that if you miss like 8 weeks and try to make it up in the remaining 8 weeks, you're not going to make that 1500. So this is what happens here. So the Laulima gradebook, it'll make it a lot easier in terms of Laulima. You will only see the total points. I'm just going to add up all your points and report that on Laulima. You won't see a week by week breakdown. If you want to see a week by week breakdown, you can go to here. You should see your profile. And by the way, please use your full last name. Now, the thing about Packback forums, they're private. No one in the public is going to see your questions or responses. Why do I ask you to use your full last name? Well, if you only use your initial for your last name, it screws up the gradebook. That means like a sorting order for alphabetical order gets out of whack, and that makes errors and causes people to get the wrong grade. So please use your full name. If you only use your initial, please change it. Put a request with Packback to change it to your full last name. And then you should be able to check in star or banner for credit, no credit for your, I think it was probably under star. So yes, if you want to track your own participation, you can see how many points you've accumulated every single week. Now, every week is snapshotted when it rolls over from Sunday to Monday of the next week. So yes, Sunday, the midnight between Sunday and Monday, that's when Packback automatically snapshots and calculates your points for that week. And yes, if you're already registered for Packback, you can start. So that's the cool thing. So again, this is why it's a little more flexible in terms of scoring. There are no mandatory weeks, there are no open and free weeks. As long as you get to that 1500 total by the end of the semester, you're good. You got the 100, or you got the maximum score for Packback. And you can be done like 6 weeks early if you start now. So yeah, so like you can post like maybe a 1 question, 1 response a week. And actually I think theoretically you can get the maximum points by not posting any questions at all. Now this is why Packback is really cool. The cool thing about Packback is it's kind of like Grammarly. It has its own coach built in. So here's a question I have slightly written here. So the cool thing about this is that if you're new to Packback, you can have a question, and again, it has to be a question that doesn't have a really a yes or no answer or a very specific answer. This is the correct answer, that's it. You want something that kind of says like, okay, people can guess at this or kind of like chime in and help to arrive at a general kind of response. But what we have here is like, okay, cool thing is that it's giving a curiosity score. And again, the curiosity score, to get above like the full credit for that, it has to be over 30. So if you see, the cool thing is that as you type, it starts to actually calculate the score, and it actually provides a little feedback like, hey, your title is right, you have grammatical spelling errors. It checks for plagiarism as well. They have an auto moderator, so if your question gets denied, it might be because you copied and pasted from a source. And you can use online sources, you can use textbook sources as well. So what you do is like, as you're typing out, you can actually see the score change. And how does yeah, so the cool thing is that, yeah, it checks all of this, and I think it now works with Grammarly too, so it uses all this AI stuff, so I think that's why there is a subscription fee, but it's pretty powerful. And I think a lot of people, like, there was some feedback that people saw that they say like, hey, this is actually improving my writing. So this is why I think Packback has been really cool. And study guides. So study guides are released typically a week before the exam. So again, study guides are based on what we're able to cover. So that's why it's slightly different every semester. Now assignments and quizzes, so Top Hat assignments, so Top Hat will be used for general assignments. And we have a new classroom, so it's not the same as last semester, and it should have this. So the join code is 110160. Nothing on it yet, again we're just getting oriented this semester. and no Top Hat assignments this week. Now, someone pointed out, like, okay, they have a 4-month subscription, but it's the 11th, and our final's on the 14th. So I'm checking in with our Top Hat rep to see if you get the 4-month, or if you already bought the 4-month, can they extend it to the 14th? Because again, that's when our final is, and you need to take your final. So I'm checking on that. If you haven't bought it yet, hold off for now. I am checking in with, I already sent an email to our Top Hat rep. And I have to say this every semester, lecture grades and your lab grades are separate. Again, if you're not in the lab, don't worry. But if you're taking both the lecture and the lab, the thing is the lab is dovetailed with the lecture. But the thing is that you have a different set of assignments and assessments and exams for the lab, and that's what your lab grade is based on. So you can, in theory, I mean, most people get similar grades between their lecture and lab, but I mean, it is possible to get an A in the lab and flunk the lecture if you don't study the lecture stuff. Yeah, so PHYL 142 is lecture, and if you don't know the code, it should be in the syllabus as well. So grades do not carry over. Now lecture slides, after a lecture, within 24 hours-ish, I try to post the lecture slides in the lecture resources folder. I try to get, I know I kind of fell to the wayside when I had to teach like both of you and the med students last semester, but I'll try to get these slides up earlier. But yeah, they'll be under resources and under lecture slides. And then my slides are outlined. Thing is that will you be able to study just from the slides without the lectures? Well, you might be able to, but you might miss out on important information. So my slides are outlined. They are not study guides. They are not notes. You have to fill in the details and your notes. And again, why? Because otherwise my slides would be pretty much the textbook, and you already have that. So your goals this week, what should you do? So add the PHYL 142 website. It'll make things a lot easier. It'll save you a lot of clicking. Mark exam days on your calendar. Again, you want to make sure you don't have anything busy that day, and if you can schedule your shifts, try to not have your shift on that day as well. And then register on Packback. You can use your Laulima and official UH name. What is your Laulima and official UH name? Log into Laulima, click the upper right corner where it says your name, and that's your official UH name. So again, I know some of you do have preferred nicknames, but the thing is that why do I ask you to use your official UH name? Because again, when I get the report from Packback, if you have a different name, it's going to screw up the sorting order when I try to import it into Laulima. So it makes it a lot easier for not just you, but everyone else in the class. And register on Top Hat by next week. So again, if you already bought Top Hat, don't worry. I am checking in with, I already checked in with the rep. I'm just waiting for the response. But if you haven't bought it yet, wait till next week. You won't have anything assigned on Top Hat that's worth points this week. So yeah, Top Hat, don't worry about that for this week, but keep it in mind for next week. And I think that's it. Stretch goal. So what we have here, read chapter 17 and 18. So then that's what you should do. And study guides earlier, what you can do is basically you have the chapter reading, and I think they have like a study outline. Pretty much that. So I mean, this like, I think if you go to the course syllabus, you can see which chapters I covered before each exam, and pretty much like if you look at the chapter outline, it almost is kind of lines up exactly, well, I shouldn't say exactly, but pretty much the content, whatever content's in the chapter is what we pretty much try to cover as much of in class. Alright, so the thing about the first exam, now this is where it's a little different. Endocrinology is, if you ask med students in general, at least the ones not at UH, which is their least favorite subject, that might often makes their top 3 least favorite because it's so theoretical. But that's my passion. That's why I've spent over a decade researching. Hormones are really cool, but that's why I spend a lot of time. Thing is that I think why a lot of like health professionals didn't like that during education is that they try to fit all the hormones in maybe like a very small amount of time. So I take my time on purpose with that because so many different hormones, dozens of different hormones, dozens of different effects and ways they work. So I think it does them more justice to take your time with that. Yeah, so usually that. If they don't say hormones, they usually say the nephron. So when they get to the kidneys, because they're both very complex and have a lot of physiology and theory, but I think the tough thing about when people teach hormones, they just try to like cram all of it in a small amount of time. That's why we take our time with hormones. So yeah, first lectures are all chapter 18. Again, so we explain things a little more in detail than we do and take our time with hormones than compared to like I think there's even some A&P classes on the mainland. They actually fit both the nervous system and hormones within the first semester. I don't know how they do that, but yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy. I can't see how to do that efficiently. I think that would overwhelm everyone because like if you were here last semester, you saw the nervous system occupied all of exam 3, and there's a whole lot of content there. So I don't know how some people somehow squish. I think that's why a lot of people don't like endocrinology, is that often people try to get through it as much as quick as possible, but there's also a lot of information. I mean, the two regulatory systems in your body that control everything are your nervous system and your endocrine system. So they're also a lot of physiology, but they're also very powerful. So that's why it's really cool that those are probably like, or actually like almost all the chapters in this semester are my favorite chapter, but endocrinology is my favorite because, and yeah, that's why I got my start teaching at the med school, and that's why I've been researching. That's what my master's and doctorate is in. So hormones. So yeah, we start off with that on Wednesday, and we're out over time. So, all right. So again, your goals pretty light this week, and if you can read the hormone and endocrinology chapters, by all means, get it. That's what we're covering for the next few weeks. So see you on Wednesday. Office hour starts at 3.